Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lila. Years ago, I met a French tourist when I traveled in China. How do you like your trip? I asked him. He said, I got the best value for the money I spent on this trip because I'm visiting the most different country in the world. Yes, from the point of view of a Westerner, China's people are more different than any other people in the world. Arabs, Indian, including Asians neighboring China, Thais, Filipinos, etc. In 19th century, the American government implemented the Chinese Exclusion Act to prevent Chinese people from immigrating into their country. This cannot be explained by racism because they did not exclude Indian Filipinos. In my opinion, this is because they found Chinese people were too different, probably also because too many of them. You may ask, why are Chinese people so different? The best way to find an answer is to travel back in history. There are 4 cradles of civilization in the old continents. They are Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, and China. They all emerged and developed independently with their own distinctive and unique cultural features. From the map, you will easily notice that Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India were closer comparatively. They could easily reach one another without modern transportation means, either by land or by sea. They have been in contact at their early age. Then they started to trade and make social, economic, and cultural exchanges. Under their influence, many newer civilizations emerged in other parts of the world. For example, Mesopotamian and Egyptian influence converged on the island of Crete and then gradually spread into the mainland Greece to create the glorious Greek civilization. The present-day Indian cultures are believed to be a mixture of Asian Indus civilization and Euro-Indian influence brought into India by the Aryan immigrants. Writings of all modern languages in the world, with the exception of Chinese, could ultimately trace their origin to cuneiform, the earliest writing system in ancient Mesopotamia. Language is the carrier of the culture. Therefore, all those people are more or less influenced by Mesopotamian civilization. On the other hand, China is much far away, not to mention the geographical barriers like Himalayan mountain range and Gobi Desert. Chinese civilization had developed in isolation from the rest of the world for quite a long period of time. The term Silk Road is new. It was invented by the German geographer Ferdinand von Richthofen in 1877. The actual Silk Road was older than the term itself for sure, but not as old as many people think. Otherwise, the best-selling book, The Marvels of Marco Polo, would not be such an explosion when it was published in 13th century. Silk products from China were found in ancient Greece and Roman Empire, but they were brought there through many middlemen in between. Direct contact never existed between China as the Western world during that period. China is the only continuing cradle civilization which survived till today, while the 3 others disappeared after being absorbed into many different younger civilizations. Consequently, China developed her own cultural traditions with many unique features totally different from the rest of the world. For example, Chinese characters are the only non-alphabetical writing system still in use in the world. But the most important unique feature in Chinese cultural tradition is that the Chinese people never produced any formal religion in their history. No state religion has ever been established, and no imported religion ever conquered China to become predominant in Chinese society. Chinese civilization is the only civilization in the world have not produced any formal religion. So basically, the Chinese people are not religious. I know such an argument is very controversial. The following two important distinctions will help you to better understand my argument. First, we need to distinguish formal religion from folk religion. In general, Chinese do believe that supernaturals exist. Chinese have been practicing various worships referred to as folk religion since the birth of their civilization. But they are essentially different from formal or official religions created in other civilizations like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. There are no holy books, no congregations, and other religious elements. 祭祖, worship of ancestors, has remained the most popular worship till today. But it does not involve any supernaturals or gods at all. 祭天, worship of heavens, have official status, but it was kept exclusively to emperors for legitimacy purpose. Many other folk religions do not pursue spiritual fulfillment, but pragmatic benefit for their daily life. Confucius said, "Be respectful of the supernaturals and stay away from them." It means to Confucius, supernaturals don't matter much to him. If you ever read the famous classical novel 西游记, Pilgrimage to the West, the monkey man Sun Wukong repeatedly challenged and fight supernaturals. The novel is full of mockings and teasings of all kinds of shen or deities. Unlike formal religion followers, Chinese do not take a negative view on the physical life, but just enjoy it. While in a formal religion tradition, people think only the other world is real, superior to our physical life. It provides meaning of life, norms of life, moral principles to our daily life. The folk religion in China play no role in the formation of fundamental beliefs, more importantly, on the establishment of the core of the moral system. The second distinction, individual religious faith and religious tradition in a society. Foreign religions were introduced into China and converted many followers. Buddhism entered China during the 1st century AD and peaked during the Tang Dynasty. Buddhism has a huge influence in Chinese culture, but it still failed to overtake the original Chinese beliefs as dominant ideology. During the past 2 centuries, Christians increased in millions. But keeping in mind of a population of 1.4 billion in China, you will realize they are far from being a majority. In many other countries, formal religion was imposed at least once by authority to become the state religion in the past. People are forced to accept such a religion. Generation by generation, people are brainwashed. The religious teachings are instilled in their cultural tradition. The religious teachings are instilled in their cultural tradition and shape people's worldview and moral values. Religion penetrated overwhelmingly into everyone and everywhere. But this never happened throughout history in China. In the West, holidays are really holidays. Christmas and Easter are the most important holidays. While in China, there are Lunar New Year and Mid-Autumn Festival, which have nothing to do with religion. In the Western tradition, once the baby was born, he will be baptized. A marriage needs to be blessed by a priest. Funerals is a ceremony offering prayers and Bible reading. To express a surprise, a Westerner will say, "Oh my God." A Chinese will say, 我的妈呀, "Oh my mother." In my opinion, it doesn't matter much whether someone is currently practicing a religion or going to church regularly, but whether he grows up in a society with religious tradition or not. For example, more and more people in Northern Europe claim themselves as atheists, but I still consider them as religious as they are raised in a society with Christian tradition for so many years. Many Chinese practicing Buddhism or Christianity, I still think they are non-religious. Tradition is very powerful. They are in our blood. There is an interesting coincidence in Sinosphere. Like China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam have never developed a state religion in their history. When we're talking about Indochina region in Asia, we would naturally think Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia should be identical, but in fact, it's not the case. Cultural boundary should be drawn here. If you have chance to visit this region, you will notice right away Laos bears so many similarities to Thailand, while Vietnam is actually a smaller China. You will be amazed by the magnificent ruins of the Angkor Wat in Cambodia. But you can hardly find any secular buildings, like residential houses, marketplaces there, but only mountains of temples, statues, fully dedicated to Hinduist or Buddhist deities. This cannot be found in Vietnam or any other Sinosphere countries. Laos and Cambodia belong to Indosphere. Non-religiousness leads to a secular worldview. A worldview is a comprehensive framework of ideas and attitudes toward the world, a system of fundamental beliefs. Generally speaking, Plato's idealism represents a Westerner's worldview. Plato holds that the physical reality around us is just a reflection of a higher truth. For example, we can see many different tables in our life. They are old one, new one, blue one, black one. Some are made of iron, others are made of wood. Some are broken, some are brand new. Plato argues that all these particular tables are unreal and imperfect. They are only the reflection of one table, the idea of table, which is invisible, eternal, and perfect. For the same reason, many other objects are reflection from their corresponding ideas. All ideas are perfect and good. They originate from one ultimate idea, the idea of good. Sometimes it is thus called the One, the highest absolute one, which was later developed into the concept of God in monotheism religions like Christianity and Islam. In summary, the Sacred One worldview tends to see things and act in an absolute way, good or evil, to be or not to be, freedom or die. They distrust the material world and pursue higher perfectness in the ideal world. Though ancient Chinese didn't deny the existence of the supernaturals, but they prefer to stay away from them, focusing on the observation of the physical world to acquire wisdom. In China, the yin-yang theory dates back to 9th century BC. It influenced thousands of years of Chinese people, and it contributed the most in the formation of a Chinese worldview. They believed that everything has both yin and yang aspects. Yin represents passive side, while yang represents the positive side. These two opposite but complementary forces interact to create objects and lives in the natural world. They keep them going in constant state of change. They are opposed to each other, but they are inseparable and even interdependent. Neither one is superior to the other. They are not good or evil. Sometimes the yin is stronger while the yang is weaker, sometimes vice versa. Yin may contain some of the yang elements, but the same may happen to yang. Yin-yang interaction can be easily found in forms of change and indifference, such as the cycle of the day and night, light and shadow, and male and female sexual coupling. Harmony or the perfect status can be achieved when the two forces combined are in balance. Secular two worldview tend to think and act in a relative way. They believe in flexibility and reciprocity. They like the idea as too much is just like not enough, or treat others as you want to be treated. Such type of way of thinking is referred to as a golden mean, or the middle way, 中庸 in Chinese. Golden mean is the basic law for Chinese. They often say the hard can be defeated by the soft. They tend to believe too much is as bad as not enough. The difference in worldview is also reflected in architecture. Western architecture stresses the height in the center, with strong vertical visual effects, making you to look upward. Look at those pillars, repeating the vertical emphasis. Chinese traditional buildings normally don't stand up high. They were constructed on a flat and wide platform to stress the horizontal visual impact. They always use secondary elements on two sides to strengthen the bilateral symmetry to reflect the two aspects and balance in yin-yang theory. There's one most frequently asked question on Chinese architecture. Why are roofs curved in many Chinese buildings? Answer can be found in their worldview. In contrast to the two heavily decorated sides, the center of the building is often deliberately neglected, with nothing remarkable there.
But I see a portrait in the center there.
Yeah, you're right. But the portrait is not supposed to be there. It was hung up there quite recently.
Nani?
Golden mean is also reflected in other aspects of Chinese culture. It is the general principle in Confucius' political theory, Sun Tzu's art of war. In traditional Chinese medicine, there's no such bad thing as disease. Your health problem is caused by the imbalance of the two opposite abstract elements, like the hot and the cold, the wet and the dry. The treatment of the doctor prescribed do not aim to cure disease, but to put your body back in a balanced situation. Martial arts Tai Chi master always teach not to forget the soft and make a combination of the hard and the soft to make you powerful. Feng Shui is to establish harmony between humans and their environments. Non-religiousness leads to a secular moral system. Some people think morality derives from religion. If someone has no religious faith, he will be immoral. But many others think it is the opposite. They believe human moral consciousness is innate. Some basic moral principles like compassion and fairness was in your brain when you are born. Religion is to wake up human morals and put it into a concrete system. Religion also functions to ensure everyone acts morally. Since moral acts do not grant you immediate benefits, believing in God will warrant them to you after life in paradise. Chinese people have no religious tradition. Their morals derive from their secular beliefs instead. The core moral values of the West are based on Christian moral principles, which stem from the concept of the God. God is omnipotent, perfect, and eternal. Bible is the source of the moral guideline. Christian morality is about relationship between God and human. The three pillars are love, justice, and truth. They can be summarized in one word: grace or grace of God. They are absolute and unconditional, just as German philosopher Immanuel Kant put it, as categorical imperative. Even some so-called secular moral values, like liberalism and democracy, tend to pursue the perfectness of the quality of those moral concepts in an absolute way and unconditionally. Traditional Chinese believe that the perfectness derived from harmony or balance of yin and yang. The Chinese core moral values developed from such beliefs. They are xiao, zhong, yi. They can be summarized in one word: ren. There are absolutely no equivalents in other languages, as these concepts are uniquely from Chinese moral traditions. You cannot grab the precise meaning just by consulting a Chinese English dictionary in a few words or in a sentence. You probably need a few pages or even a book to fully understand such concepts. The character ren already reveals its basic meaning. The left part means person or human, the right part means two. Unlike Western morality, which stands from relationship between God and human, here it is about relationship between two persons. Its basic meaning is to be good to others. It is not absolute. It is relative, mutual, and reciprocal. If you are not ren, I will not be yi, is acceptable to most Chinese. It reflects Chinese traditional yin-yang theory, pursuing harmony and yin-yang balance. Human relationship is about take and give. Take is considered as yin, give is considered to be yang. It is about the balance of take and give. It is considered immoral when one takes more than he gives. Giving more than taking to avoid the opposite is always desire, and it is considered the most moral acts. Xiao means to be good to your parents. It is also translated in English as filial piety. For Chinese, xiao is the most important virtue above all other virtues. Xiao is central in Chinese moral values and the root of other virtues. You may ask why. Supposing you have grown up and you are now 18 years old. Who has given you the most in this world? Of course, your parents. It is to your parents you owe the most. So at this moment, it is the situation the least balanced. You should return all this by offering all your love, respect, financial support, and even blind submission as a sacrifice to your parents if needed. Xiao is so important that it becomes a norm to judge a person if it's moral or not. In the imperial time, there was a practice called Dingyou. If a government official's mother passed away, the emperor would order him to go back to his home village and stay there for 3 years to accompany his mother's grave. Such a rule was to emphasize the importance of this moral principle. Zhong means to be good to your superior. This is about relationship between emperor and his ministers or government officials. But this can be extended to the relationship between teacher and students, master and disciples, leader and followers, coach and players, etc. The rule of the take and give prevails. A minister should know what he has today is given by emperor, so he should remain loyal to the emperor and work hard to repay him. For the same reason, students and disciples owe their knowledge and living skills to their teacher and master. Therefore, They should show respect and submission, and even materialistic return to them. Yi means to be good to your related person. It is about the relationship with a person besides parents and superior. This word can be exchangeable to ren. Chinese have a very strong sense of take and give in a relationship. They constantly keep a balanced shit in mind. I remember once my grandma told me when I was a child, one bowl comes, one bowl returns. Bowls will break if no return. When they realize they own somebody, they know they should return timely to keep their balance ship balanced. Otherwise, they will feel guilty. They will feel even more comfortable when giving is more than taking. There is a very important moral concept, en, in Chinese. En is translated as grace, favor, or kindness in dictionary. That is not precise. I don't think there's any equivalent in English or other languages. This is a moral concept in Chinese culture. I translate it as a moral debt you owe to somebody else. 知恩图报. To pay back moral debt is the highest moral principle of Chinese morality. This is the general principle behind those moral virtues like 孝, 忠, 义. This principle traces its source in yin-yang theory. The morals are from the balance of the giving and receiving, gain and loss. To give more than to receive is considered even higher moral deeds. 滴水之恩将涌泉相报. Repay a drop of water with a burst of spring. It sounds businesslike, right? It is very hard for the peoples with the religious tradition to understand. Some Western scholars describe it as secular as sacred. That's why when I asked the French tourist my second question, how he described a Chinese in a few words, he replied, un commerçant redoutable. It means a terrible businessman in English. I think his answer is twofold. Number one, Chinese are good at business. Yes, China is now ranked the number one in international trade. You can find a lot of successful businessmen in China and across the world. I think it's easy to understand when your worldview and morals are businesslike as well and deep-rooted in your mind. The yin-yang theory and economic law are all laws of nature. Both are acquired by observation of the nature, not by divine revelation. They are more compatible. Furthermore, formal religions often have restriction or prohibition on economic activities or pursuit of wealth. For example, Christianity once condemned the practice of lending money with interest. Number two is that Chinese tend to think and act businesslike in all aspects of daily life. Everything can be quantified, evaluated, and priced. Chinese people in general are realists and pragmatists. Black cat or white cat as long as you catch mouse, as Paramount leader Deng Xiaoping said. Accepting this argument is the key to understand Chinese culture. There's nothing wrong, nothing unusual being not religious. Without a formal religion, Chinese people have established by another way a comprehensive moral system which has been functioning pretty well for thousands of years. They also found substitutions for the other function of a religion. Just an example, poetry has been extremely popular in China throughout the history. 诗和远方, poetry and beyond, is a popular way to mean spiritual pursuit in China. Thank you for watching. See you next time.